Hey guys, Ron here, and a year ago there was a Twitter trend that was started by lizard artist Ray where people swapped the evolution for various lines. The idea was to take the pre-evolved form and imagine it as if it was a final evolution, and take the concept of the final evolution and reduce it to a more simplified and diminutive pre-evolved Pokemon. Many people participated, including me. If you haven't seen part 1, check it out after this. Now let's make more, but do consider becoming a patron or pressing the join button to get rewards like seeing my videos days early or discounts on merch, because with your support, experimental videos like this will keep on coming. Let's begin with an evolutionary line I think has perfect progression. Torterra is, in my opinion, a flawless Pokemon, but what if it were baby? It'll be super fun to simplify this super detailed behemoth. And Turtwig is a cute turtle, but those animals are often used to represent old age, so I'm gonna make a geezer Turtwig. What's cool about all of these is that I can simply use the Prevos as reference for the proportions of these babyfied versions of fully evolved forms. And just like all starters, this dude will have a huge head. But the challenge is not to make a Turtwig. It has to be Torterra's concept and design traits as an unevolved Pokemon. There are so many aspects of and details on a Torterra, but half of them gotta be removed because an unevolved Pokemon wouldn't have all these details. So the most important trait to keep is the tree. You might be thinking, wouldn't I also de-age the tree? I mean, to be fair, it'll be a smaller tree, but if I make it a sprout, the concept will simply be Turtwigs. So I thought a brand new concept for a pre-evolved Pokemon would be that it has this top-heavy tree on top of it. These are also cute proportions for a Prevo to have. It's more precious to have this little guy carrying something heavy than if it were to carry a sprout. I thought this face was kinda expressionless, so I did open up the mouth, and once it was fully colored, I did realize that Torterra's face patterns are pretty iconic, so I gave him back. Before showing the final results, let's begin making our old Turtwig so we can compare them side by side. Now the concept of an aging grass turtle isn't anything new, so I think this concept will look pretty natural. Turtwig is a baby turtle with a sprout on its head. We're not evolving that concept, we're imagining the same concept as if it were used for a fully evolved Pokemon, so that means this Pokemon will also have leaves on its head, but nothing more. No tree. But the leaves will be long and the pattern that already exists on a Turtwig will be expanded upon. I want this to look like a stiff and practically wooden animal, and there you have it. I like to think that this Torterra likes to swim and even frolic in mud, and that this Turtwig slowly walks around fields eating berries. They're both super friendly Pokemon, and I can always appreciate that. The Goodra line doesn't change much in terms of theme as it evolves. The colors and aesthetics are literally the same, but the form is completely different as Goomy eventually becomes Goodra. What if the already innocent and soft Goodra was a sticky child, and the dangerous dragon that is Goomy showcased its full potential as a devastating slime monster? The philosophy I'm using with this design is, what if Goodra was a little spirit that curiously walked around the wilderness and meddled with the lives of all sorts of Pokemon, leaving a trail of goo? I mean, realistically, nobody would put up with the mess a Goodra makes if it weren't a super powerful Pokemon. So what if it was an annoying child? But since it doesn't mean harm and is actually still kinda strong for its size, people do forgive it. Ultimately, since Goodra is literally the most simple looking pseudo-legendary Pokemon, there wasn't much to take out when converting it to a toddler. Definitely the least different in this video. Goomy, on the other hand, is one of the most minimal Pokemon in this video, so there is not much to expand. However, simply elongating it and making it look more sinister is enough to change the vibe completely, and upgrade the initial concept from friendly slug to threatening slime monster. The pose also implies a very unnatural movement. Dude could randomly change its direction and attack you, and here they are. Almost looks like a little alien girl and her pet alien. I feel like the original designs of these naturally lent them to being part of this challenge. Goodra was already super friendly looking, and Goomy already had this air of mystery. The Glalie line is one of the most drastic. Snorunt looks nothing like a Glalie, so it would be fun making a little Glalie that could act as a Prevo we never got, and an elongated Snorunt that could be a third evolved form of a Snorunt if we really wanted. I mean, that's basically the goal of this particular round, making what could totally be additional family members to the line. So Glalie is a floating Oni head with an ice goalie mask. The mask is too complicated for anything pre-evolved and potentially weak, and since dude is just a head, the mask is the only thing I can really simplify, so I'm just melting it and making it a snowball instead of hard ice, and its rock skin is protruding like little pebbles in a snowball. Since his entire eyes are visible, you can now see their roundness. I technically only really simplified one aspect of this guy, and it already looks like a completely different Pokemon, like a Prevo of Glalie. Snorunt will be super fun to elongate, because now I'm gonna give it the vibe of a magical fantasy creature hiding in a cloak. It coincidentally is reminiscent of a Wizrobe from Breath of the Wild, but the entire point of this is for it to look like a yokai. I mean, the entire line is kinda mythically Japanese, so leaning into the inspiration, once again, gives us a design that looks like an evolved form of a Snorunt, despite it having everything a Snorunt already has. And here are what ultimately could be mini-bosses in a fantasy game, one low-level and one mid-level enemy. I love the personality these two have, despite technically not looking very emotional. They look unpredictable and dangerous in their own right. Gholdengo is a pretty controversial Pokemon. Some people think its design is too goofy for a Pokemon, while others appreciate his competitive viability. Many do like all the aspects of this Pokemon, and some hate him in every way possible. But I think this concept and design could work incredibly well as a Prevo. A cute and cuddly Gholdengo would be peak. On the other hand, while I know some may expect a more scary mimic for our fully evolved version of Gimmighoul, I want to lean more into the Goblin and Ghoul inspiration. What if Gimmighoul was legitimately a ravenous, greedy ghoul? We all know that Gholdengo looks like a fun-loving surfing mascot, so why not lean into this adorable aspect and simply design him like he was a cute character in a kid show? I mean, he technically already is, but I think this pose and expression should convey the fun-loving nature of Gholdengo. I think toning down the amount of coin dreads this guy already has makes him less human-like. Taking out the chest belt also makes it feel less like a person, and of course, now that golden tooth that Gholdengo has fits with the design of what looks like a toddler. Gimmighoul, on the other hand, is quite friendly and innocuous. Roaming Gimmighoul doesn't look like it could really harm anyone that takes its coin, but as a fully evolved Pokemon with high stats, it is now a goblin that has a chain of coins attached to it. It violently steals the gold of others and will beat down anybody who takes from it. It will look like the embodiment of greed. The stripes are now more reminiscent of an escaped convict, and the added markings on the eyes make it look feral. And here the two are. Not gonna lie, it feels like I was rusty in the beginning and slowly getting the hang of making these. These are also way more expressive and have more dynamic poses than my usual stuff because I don't have to spend time developing the design and concept. I'm working with Pokemon that already have been fully designed, and I'm simply reposing them after changing their proportions and details. Regardless, yeah, these are my favorites so far. Kommo-o is probably the least thought about pseudo-legendary Pokemon. I'm a fan of this line, but once again, I think the problem many people have with Kommo-o would be alleviated if it was small. A lot of fans think the dude is over-designed. Well, I think it has a great reason to look the way it does. Simplifying it would give it the ideal amount of details though. While it would be super interesting to see Jangmo-o grow up as a more traditionally draconic Drake, something that looks less combat ready than Kommo-o. Kommo-o is tough to design as a child for various reasons. One, it has such masculine and brutal features that even when I tone them down, it still has the face of an evolved Pokemon. Even worse, it looks like a Hakamo-o, so I really have to deviate from it a lot in the face department. Second, with such sharp features, it's tough to picture what it would look like facing the camera. And third, even when toning down so many of its details by basically removing more than half of its scales, it still has too many scales for a Pokemon with a base stat total of 300 or less. So this process is just me aging it down even more every 10 minutes. Finally got it together and basically realized if I maintained the size of its headdress and made it look like its scaly hair is too big for it, it would seem tinier in comparison. Jangmo-o, on the other hand, was fairly easy since it already has so much to work with for an unevolved Pokemon, and all I did was make a Jangmo-o with the proportions of a grown lizard. It also manages to not look like a Kommo-o since it stays bipedal. Here they are together. Honestly, little Kommo-o went from one I was least confident about to one of the ones I'm most happy about. These two are probably the most successful since they could be their own Pokemon instead of just shrunk down and aged up versions of the original, while still clearly being based on the originals. Tsareena and Bounsweet could not be more opposites in terms of personality, so creating a baby Tsareena that is still as royal and confident as it normally is, but with a small stature, would be incredibly amusing. And a long and friendly fruit version of Bounsweet as a fully evolved form may end up looking like what we originally expected Bounsweet to evolve into before witnessing Tsareena's queenly majesty. So basically, she's small. I want to make it look like she has a dress that is made of a mangosteen fruit cut in half. The rest is basically an aged down Tsareena. I gave it a pattern on the fruit that looks like a bow tie, but it's basically just a bruise on the fruit, pigmentation from a fall. Fully evolved Bounsweet was tough though. Originally I wanted to make its leaves look like propellers that could make it fly to expand on the bouncing aspect of Bounsweet, but I forgot that a secret rule that I set for myself is that we can't be changing the types of these. I can't give it a flying type, so it'll stay grounded and just be a very proficient jumper. In fact, it skips everywhere. I'd I'd say this has the same amount of detail as a Vileplume, and if you agree, then I can say this was successful. It's funny because these two very much were originally designed to look like baby and adult, so switching them up was very tough. I've always loved the trope of an angry little cute thing, and I picture an adult Bounsweet being a compassionate healer like a Chansey. And finally, a pretty intense shift between Prevo and Evo is Breloom and Shroomish. So swapping these two without making them look like each other will be easy. Breloom is already kinda cute if you think about it, and Shroomish already has the grumpiness of a 59-year-old, so I'll just make him a tall fungus man. I've seen so many illustrations of little mushroom creatures, and this is yet another. Shroomish is already a little mushroom creature, but while Shroomish represents the rotting floor of the forest, this one is more whimsical and looks like it would be part of a little Breloom society that live in houses made of mushrooms. Okay, not mushrooms. That would be like us making houses from human corpses. They live in trees. Never mind, let's make the Shroomish. Shroomish is gonna be long, like those long mushrooms. It'll also look like a tree, because it's a grass type. It's a giant fungus that walks around being grumpy. And here they are. I love the contrast between their personalities. They both look like memes on their own. Like using any of these as reaction images would be super fun. And if you thought this video was super fun, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see a part 3, and make sure to check out the previous parts if you haven't. Check the description for the music I used, the t-shirts I made for you guys, and my Patreon, where you can get cool rewards like seeing my videos days early, and my Discord server where I post sneak peeks of my videos, like one of these designs from this video. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky for everything else, and I'll see you guys very soon.